be a tornado at that location, and to be a tornado on the ground located near Manahoy City and moving east at 30 miles per hour. Emergency management confirming that. So again, this will be near Coaldale around 8 o'clock, Hometown rather, shortly after, within the next 20 minutes or so, as this tornado warning continues to be in effect here for the next 20 minutes. It expires at 8:30. We'll go back to the regular radar here. Whoops, let's pull that up. But really what you can see is the storm starting to form what's called a little bit of a notch. So where you see this notch here, right near Hometown, that's likely where the wind is inflowing in toward the rotating thunderstorm. And so your tornado would likely be right over Hometown Route 309 right now if it is still together. And so a lot of times these tornadoes, they might be short-lived, quick little spin-ups. You know, emergency management sees something on the ground in one moment. The next moment it may be lifted. These storms do a lot of cycling as well, meaning they get stronger momentarily. The tornado may touch the ground and then it may lift up again. But nonetheless, we want you to remain vigilant, because at any point this storm, if a tornado is not on the ground currently, could produce a tornado again. And so we want you to take your tornado precautions if you're anywhere within that pink polygon. And as a matter of fact, I'll bring that pink polygon back up to the front so you know exactly where I'm talking about with the tornado warning that's now in effect as well. So again, Hometown, if this storm holds together, it's moving off to the east, Summit Hill, and parts of, heading towards south of Jim Thorpe. You would be next up if this tornado warning continued to hold together past the 8:30 hour. But right now, we're just stuck with this pink polygon here, a tornado warning that emergency management has confirmed they spotted a tornado at some point on the ground somewhere between Mahanoy City and Hometown moving east. So that is now why we are under a tornado warning. That is why the National Weather Service has put up the tornado warning. And if you're anywhere in this polygon, what I really need you to do for your safety is to get to an interior room in your home. You want to be away from windows, and you want to put as many walls between you and the outside as possible. If you have a basement, that's the safest place to be. Otherwise, you want to be on the lowest level of your home and in an interior room if you can. Again, this storm continuing to move eastward here. It's moving relatively slowly, but Summit Hill, you would be next, moving more or less right along Route 54 here over the next couple of minutes. Again, this warning now in effect for about the next 15 minutes or so, 15 to 20 minutes. The National Weather Service, again, citing that an emergency manager has confirmed a tornado on the ground at this time in this location. Lisa, I don't know if you've been looking, have you seen any damage reports or anything of that nature?
So, Tyler, at this point, we have not. Again, for our viewers who are just joining us, we are on the air now because of that tornado warning in Schuylkill County. Again, many of you know this Memorial Day, we've had a number of storms move through our area, but just a few moments ago, we got word of that tornado warning in Schuylkill County. So whenever there is a tornado warning in any part of northeastern or central Pennsylvania, of course, we're going to be on the air to bring you the latest information. Tyler, I know you've been working throughout the day. We've seen a number of storms. We had the possibility for severe weather throughout the evening. I think the watch went until 9 this evening, but this tornado warning until 8:30 in Schuylkill County, the area of Mahanoy City. We know people there should be aware, as well as those folks who are down in Tamaqua.
Yeah, and I want to know, Mahanoy City proper, you are in the clear now from this tornado warning. Tamaqua, you are now where the tornado probably would likely be if it's still on the ground at this point. And Summit Hill here, within the next couple of minutes, if they decide to extend this tornado warning, that's where the storm would likely be headed. So if you're in Summit Hill and you're listening to this, maybe your phone hasn't gone off yet with that wireless emergency alert, that noise that, wakes you up in the middle of the night, so to speak. That if this storm continues to hold together, keep in mind that this may be heading for your area here relatively shortly, and we want you to stay weather aware. We want you to have a way of getting weather warnings if after 8:30 the National Weather Service, or even before 8:30, if the National Weather Service wants to extend this tornado warning here. And I'm also going to look real quick. I'll be right back with you. I just want to look and see what the National Weather Service is saying in their chat here, if they're considering extending this tornado warning at all. But at this point, I haven't seen anything on that front at this time. So
Now, Tyler, it goes until 8:30, is that correct?
Yes, it goes until 8:30 for far northeastern Schuylkill County. So that is the only tornado warning that's currently in effect in our viewing area. This tornado warning remains in effect because the reason the National Weather Service prompted this warning is because emergency management reported that there was a tornado on the ground at some point around the 8 o'clock hour or just before that time. And so we want to emphasize these storms a lot of times can cycle. There may not be a tornado that's on the ground right now, but I don't want you to wait to see a tornado. And that's the important part because it's starting to get darker out now, right? You may not be able to see a tornado, and that's, what I really want you to keep in mind is this isn't time to go outside and take a look. This is time to get into an interior room in your house and away from windows until this potentially dangerous storm passes here. Tornado, not the only threats with this storm, also potentially damaging wind gusts are possible with this storm, frequent cloud to ground lightning as well. So even though a tornado warning is in effect, and that's the reason we're on the air with you right now in northeastern Schuylkill County from Tamaqua approaching Summit Hill, that is the only tornado warning that's in effect right now. But I want you to keep in mind as well, there are other threats associated with this storm. Small hail might be possible, damaging winds, and frequent cloud to ground lightning. We need you to get inside. If you're not inside, we need you to get inside. If you're driving on the road, if you're driving on Route 54, I want you to get into a safe place. That might be a gas station, or if you know somebody that's driving right now, maybe they're driving home from work, call them up, say, hey, you might want to pull over and let this storm pass. It's looking pretty gnarly to meteorologists on radar in terms of the tornado capacity of this storm. So again, we're going to continue watching this storm over the next few minutes as it approaches Summit Hill area. There's about 15 minutes left on this tornado warning, and at that point in time, the National Weather Service will either decide to extend it. It would be extended towards the Summit Hill area and towards just south of Jim Thorpe, or they will decide to let it expire if the National Weather Service believes that the tornado threat at this time has passed. They will let that expire. I believe this area is actually the property of the National Weather Service in State College, Pennsylvania. So they are the ones that will be issuing the warning on this storm, and we'll watch that very closely to see what they do with this storm as it continues to move out here. And the tornado warning remains in effect for the next 13 minutes or so. Let's take radar full screen here for just a moment so I can continue to show you some of the characteristics of the storm that are showing us that it's rotating. I showed this a bit earlier on. If you're just joining us, I'll show you this again now. This is a feature called velocity on radar. And so what velocity is telling us is where the rotation potentially would be in this thunderstorm. Green means wind that's going toward the radar, and red means wind that's going away from the radar. The radar literally has X-ray vision into the storm, and it's looking into it. The brighter the color means the faster the wind is going. And so when you see these red and greens next to each other right over the Summit Hill area, that to me is an indication that this storm could be rotating. It doesn't necessarily mean that there's a tornado on the ground, but it means the overhead thunderstorm is rotating and creating an environment that would be conducive for a tornado to form. So that's the definition of a tornado warning. It's an environment that's conducive for a tornado to form, not necessarily that one is on the ground at the moment. And we'll continue watching that. We'll continue looking for reports to see if a tornado was observed. I mean, we know a tornado was observed by National Weather Service, by emergency managers and then reported to the National Weather Service, but we don't know if one was spotted after that.
And Tyler, was that specifically in the Mahanoy City area or closer to Summit Hill? Are you able to get that information?
That was when it was first issued. So the confirmed tornado was near Mahanoy City, moving east at 30 miles per hour around the 8 o'clock hour. And that was when an emergency manager had reported the tornado to the National Weather Service. That's what triggered the tornado warning. It looks now like the National Weather Service has decided to extend this as a severe thunderstorm warning. So this severe thunderstorm warning now in effect for portions of, and I'll just go over the counties here real quick if I can find them. Sure. Portions of Carbon and southwestern Monroe counties. So this severe thunderstorm warning, that yellow polygon on your screen, that includes Jim Thorpe, that includes Layton, that is now in effect until 8:45 p.m. and they are putting what's called a tornado possible tag now on this severe thunderstorm warning. So what it means is the National Weather Service has less convincing information. At this point, they don't necessarily believe that a tornado is on the ground anymore, but they think, they see the reds and greens on the radar just like we do. They see that the storm is continuing to rotate, and that indicates that there still is the potential that this thunderstorm could produce a tornado. And so it's something that we'll watch very closely. But once this storm leaves the pink polygon, which is the tornado warning, that's now a severe thunderstorm warning. So once the tornado warning expires, it'll be about 10 minutes, Lisa,
right, that
we'll have to watch. And as this potentially tornadic thunderstorm continues to work through. I heard in my ear, we're joined by Chief Meteorologist Kurt Aaron right now. Kurt, thank you so much. Welcome into this tornado warning that we're continuing to cover here. Just tell us a little bit what you're seeing on your end in terms of whether the National Weather Service will continue to extend this or what the potential for this storm is.
They could. Of course, damaging winds is always a real concern with these. We're talking the possibility of, wind gusts of 100 miles an hour with these. I've got it in motion. If we could go to max 2, I just want to look at this real fast. And I'm just going to pause this on the latest now image. So let me go to that right there. So this is the area that we're watching very closely. I'm going to zoom in on this. And again, as Tyler was mentioning, they're trying to determine whether or not there's actually a funnel cloud, a tornado on the ground. And we've talked about this over the decades, the fact that when I started back in the mid-90s, you had to have a spotter on the ground to determine whether or not there was tornadic activity, whether there was a tornado or not. Now, Doppler radar has upped its game, as Tyler was just mentioning, and now they can see the rotation in the clouds. So this is the area right here that we're concerned with, and the possibility that this could be extended certainly looks real. We look at it right now, though. I will say it is beginning to weaken a little bit. So I just want to back out on this real fast. So we're talking about places here in Schuylkill and Carbon County. And this is typical with tornadic activity. It has a tendency to move to the northeast. Now, not always, but there is a tendency for it to move northeast. So if we look at just a couple of these systems, obviously the one that we're tracking right now, I want to look at a couple of them right here. They are moving northeast, so that would put them in the category of Nesquehoning, Jim Thorpe, Broadheadsville. There's also another nasty storm back here that I want to show, and that one's going to be moving through Frackville, Mahanoy City, and McAdoo, Summit Hill as well. So these are all areas that we're keeping a very close eye on. Let me just eliminate these, and I want to go back to the wider picture here on radar, and just looking at it right now, this is pretty much the end of it for now. There is some more storms that are filling up just a little bit to the west, and that cold front's coming through tonight, so we're going to continue to watch that. We zoom in a little bit more here, and even though you may not be in the path of the tornado, places like Whitehaven are going to be dealing with some severe storms as well. So we're going to keep an eye. Let me just go to the watches and warnings map. And here we are with this right here on max 2. There's the area right there. That's until 8:30. So we got about another 7 minutes. This could be extended, but I want to look at the flow once again on this. We hit the load button. And we apologize if we're breaking into programming, but these are serious scenarios. So as you can see, it is moving east-northeast, and typically when we talk about tornadoes, they form in the southwest corner of storms, and that's exactly what we're seeing with this. And they have a tendency to want to move to the northeast. So this one's moving east-northeast, and we're going to continue to watch it, Tyler. It looks like right now, the worst is right now over our southern tier. So this is going to be pushing into the Poconos. So folks in the Poconos are going to have to pay close attention to the weather, because this could be looking at some damaging winds, obviously cloud-to-ground lightning, and some hail. So right now, what's the latest, Tyler? Do you have, I'm only on my computer here at home, but do you have an update from the National Weather Service as far as extending this?
I believe the update from the National Weather Service in terms of extending this is that they've extended it to a severe thunderstorm warning. Remember that warning in effect until 8:45 with the tornado possible tag on it. So what that means is meteorologists at the National Weather Service will be monitoring the storm. Remember, the severe thunderstorm warning is this yellow box here that includes Jim Thorpe, Layton as well. And they'll be monitoring this storm as it continues to move out of the tornado warning and into this yellow severe thunderstorm warning polygon. And they'll be looking for signs of rotation, also monitoring spotter reports really closely to see if there's any damage. And I just want to go back for a second to rewind to the very beginning of this when I told you as soon as we came on the air that the reason that this tornado warning was prompted was because a report of a possible tornado was sent into the National Weather Service in State College. I do want to relay the exact report now. We have text from Mahanoy City. It says at 7:42 p.m. there was a report of multiple trees down and possible tornado damage there. So even though the storm is now moving out of Mahanoy City, at this point still, if you're around there, I would advise you probably not to leave your home for a little while if you can help it, because there's probably some trees down, maybe some power lines as well. I wouldn't be surprised if they're dealing with some power outages there. It could be a result of a tornado. It could be a result of damaging wind gusts. But regardless, remember that the threat does not end as soon as these storms end, because you're still dealing with, in some cases, trees down, power lines down, branches down, that sort of thing as well. And keep in mind that there's another cell just to the south and west of the cell that was tornado warned. That cell looking a little bit weaker, but still will pack a punch in terms of heavy rain and gusty wind. And so, you don't want to go out to, say, investigate damage or something like that and then get caught up in this cell as well. And so it's important to keep those things in mind as we continue to track multiple cells. It's not just this one, but this one is the only one that has a warning on it. Now looking to weaken just a little bit from where it was earlier, and that's the good news. It looks a little bit weaker here on radar. And that's why the National Weather Service, Kurt, is extending this as a severe thunderstorm warning until 8:45.
And Tyler, that severe thunderstorm warning, does that include?
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. Definitely on the
Yes.
radar returns, it's looking less severe, but that doesn't mean, and we've talked about this many times, when you talk about thunderstorms, the vast majority of the people don't, know really that straight line winds. You were talking about damaging winds. Specifically, we're talking about straight line winds. That's what comes out of these storms. And many times that creates a lot of the damage. So when we look at that, I'm looking on the radar right now and some of the wind returns, it's really looking like a lot of straight line winds. Now, it doesn't mean that there wasn't, a tornado there. However, I will say the National Weather Service is going to send a team into this area where they had the report of a funnel cloud. And what they're going to look for is a debris field. And they're going to see if the trees are all pushed up by their roots or if they're snapped in half in almost like a 180, so almost like a half a circle rotation. Those are key indicators, the difference between straight line winds and a tornado. But as you were mentioning, Tyler, if you look at Jim Thorpe right now, and I want to zoom in on that, they're dealing with some nasty weather. They've got the heavy rains, they've got the cloud to ground lightning, and they're also dealing with the gusty winds. Also Weatherly dealing with that as well. So and come back here towards Frackville, there's Mahanoy City. So this is going to be moving east northeast, and as we mentioned before, it's a very typical pattern for tornadoes to move from the southwest to the northeast, and that's what we're seeing with these clusters of storms. I am happy to report, though, if you look behind it, and just bear with me because I'm getting pop-ups as I'm on Max 2 here, the latest from the National Weather Service. If you look back towards Williamsport, Bloomsburgs, and those areas, all is quiet there, but there are some more storms, and we still have that front that's going to be pushing through. So we still may have some more storms here, but it looks like that extension from a tornado warning to a severe thunderstorm warning is likely going to be the scenario, Tyler.
Yes, and one more thing I want to point out as well while we're still on the air, Kurt, and this is outside of our viewing area, but some of you may have family or friends that reside in southern Pennsylvania near the Lancaster area. There's currently a tornado warning also in effect for northern Lancaster County. So if you have family or friends that live in that area as well, that is another threat. I'll just look quickly on my phone here, excuse me, the Gen Z person looking on my phone, until 9 o'clock. So that tornado warning, the one that's outside of our viewing area in northern Lancaster County, is in effect until 9 p.m. Eastern time. So if you have any friends or family that live down there, you're also going to want to call them, let them know, hey, you might be under a tornado warning right now. Make sure you're seeking those precautions as these storms continue to cycle, Kurt. And like I said, these cycling processes happen. Now the tornado warning about to expire here within the next 30 seconds, we believe, and this severe thunderstorm warning will now be up, and the National Weather Service meteorologists will be monitoring the rotation in there extremely closely and keeping a close eye on this storm while it's still in our viewing area to see if it spins up again. And if it spins up again, we could get another tornado warning. You could get another notification on your phone. But until that time, the National Weather Service now leaving the tornado warning that was for parts of this, parts of Mahanoy City and hometown as well. That tornado warning is now expired. So at this point, unless you have anything else to add, I think we are, now that the tornado warnings have expired, we are going to probably return to our regular programming here in just a moment. Kurt, you want to add something real quick?
I do want to add I just want to add a couple things real quick, and that is, if you look at the radar, T-Dog, if we could go back to Max 2 for a minute, and I want to zoom in. We're not out of the woods yet. We're not, because if you look at those storms right now through Carbon County and now going into Monroe County, these are going to continue into Pike County, all of these areas in our viewing area. So these storms are going to be moving through, and they could be packing damaging winds, cloud to ground lightning, and hail. So we want to make sure that we are weather aware. And I see we have some more severe thunderstorm warnings in the areas we were just talking about, and that includes Carbon. I'm looking at it right now, just to our south, as you were mentioning, Tyler. So this whole system, and I just want to point it out here real quick, so just bear with me. This whole system right here, this is going to keep moving in this direction. So as it does, it's going to continue to create havoc with the winds, with the rain, and also the cloud to ground lightning. So we're not out of the woods yet, Tyler. We've got to get through these last couple of storms, and then we have the front to come through tonight, so I know you're going to have a busy night.
Yes, Kurt, and just to emphasize as well, to your point, one more severe thunderstorm warning that just popped up, and that's just to the south of where our initial tornado warning was. And so if you remember earlier on, I was talking about how there was another cell coming up right behind that one, and it didn't look as, didn't have the same rotation profile that the tornado warned thunderstorm had, but I said it still looked like it had the potential to be a severe thunderstorm. And sure enough, the National Weather Service now putting up a severe thunderstorm warning for central Schuylkill County for that storm as well. So here are the warnings that we currently have. We have 3 severe thunderstorm warnings that remain in effect. We have a severe thunderstorm watch that remains in effect through the next half an hour as well. We will continue to keep you updated here on Air WNEP, but for now, there are no more tornado warnings for our viewing area, and we will send you back to your regularly scheduled programming.
This has been a Stormtracker 16 special report.